Hi. So via this video today, what we are going to understand is how to make SFAPI calls to SuccessFactors via SOAP UI and extract data. So on the screen that you are seeing right now is a SOAP UI application opened up, in which I have just made a login call to the SuccessFactors application. Now, in order to recap how we reached this far, we need to understand a couple of things. Let me share the screen here, the PPT. Okay. Yeah. So the goal that we are striving for is how to make SFAPI calls to SuccessFactors from SOAP UI. The milestones that we need to meet to reach the goal. Number one, to know the data center URL of the SuccessFactors instance that we want to extract the data from. Second, to create an SFAPI user in SuccessFactors with the appropriate authorizations so that the data can be extracted. And in this particular demonstration, we will take up one SFAPI object. And for that SFAPI object, the data we need to extract, so what authorizations are needed, we will be considering those authorizations only in this demonstration. And third, the live demo on how to extract data from SuccessFactors that will be running via the SOAP UI. So the prerequisites that needs to be fulfilled, we need to know the company ID of the SuccessFactors instance we want to extract data from. And also we need to have SuccessFactors credentials so that we can create an SFAPI user with and grant him the appropriate authorizations to extract the data. And third, the SFAPI should be enabled in the provisioning model in SuccessFactors. Now, in order to, so the milestones that we saw, first, know the data center URL of SuccessFactors instance. Now, the data center URL of the SuccessFactors instance so let's say you have a SuccessFactors instance URL wherein you connect into the UI, log into the various admin module, do the various activities, go into the talent profiles, etc., etc. So that is the UI part of it, onto which we interact with the SuccessFactors application. But herein, to extract the data via the SFAPI call, we need to talk to the data center, the backend behind the application. So that backend we are referring to as a data center URL or the SFAPI URL to make a data, or to make a connection to. It is also usually referred as an API server. So SuccessFactors, being a cloud-based application, the SFAPI URLs are specific to the data centers where the SuccessFactors application instance to which you have access to, or from which we want to extract the data from, are hosted. An example of the SFAPI URL is as mentioned below: https://hostname.successfactors.com/SFAPI/v1/so, where hostname refers to the data center hosting the SuccessFactors instance. Now, why data center is being embossed over here is to make a distinction that this host name is different than the host name which you normally see in the SuccessFactors application when you log into it on the UI part. So that is a different data center URL. The host name is different. That we'll come to know in the coming slides. The WSDL, now, in order to make a web service call, SFAPI, which is a web service call, a SOAP-based web service call. So the WSDL for that can be gathered or retrieved by adding $WSDL to the data center URL. So towards the end, as you can see, $WSDL. Now you may find an actual WSDL structure over here. So if we see https:// so sales demo 4. So this is an actual data center host name, and the URL sales demo 4.successfactors.com/SFAPI/v1/so question mark visual will in fact give us the actual pistol of the sales demo 4 data center. But this is just an example, and we will be seeing how to know the actual data center URL of the SuccessFactors instance from which you want to extract the data from. Let me share the Vistal. Okay, so this is a URL https://salesdemo4.successfactors.com/SFAPI/v1/so question mark visual. So once it is entered in the browser, you can see the actual Vistal being nested over here. Okay, yeah, we'll come to this in more details when we make a call from the SFAPI from the SOAP UI. So let me share my screen back to the PowerPoint. Now, so SuccessFactors Instance URL. So that is what I was saying. I was mentioning about the UI part of the SuccessFactors application. So there's an example. Let's say the SuccessFactors application URL is as below: https://performance manager 8.successfactors.com/login. So in order to know that, okay, what is the data center URL for this particular SuccessFactors instance application URL, we can navigate to this particular URL as shown in the screen here, which basically points to an SAP public note, and it enlists the data center URLs under 3 categories: production, preview, and sales demo. Just hold the thought. Let's see that. Okay, so this is the node number and the generic node available to know the SuccessFactors API URLs for different data centers. So DC2, DC4, DC5, and henceforth, these are the identifiers for the data centers. Now, under every data center identifier, you would see there are 3 categories: production, sales demo, preview. So right now, production system is an actual production system. Sales demo, like probably we want to give it for a sales demo purpose. Then these are the systems: preview system and another type of a system. So these are all the categories for the specific data centers. Now, how to associate the data center URL to the instance? So the examples of SuccessFactors instance URL, SuccessFactors Instance URL. So that is the SuccessFactors application URLs. So for example, let's say if it is https pmsalesdemo8.successfactors.com/login, or if it is https performance manager 8.successfactors.com/login. So for these application URLs, application UI application URLs, what would be the specific data center? The hint lies in the integer value in the host name of the URL. So what is the integer value in the host name? It is 8 for both the instances, right? So in the example, it is 8 as in PM Sales Demo 8, Performance Manager 8. So the instance corresponds to data center DC8. So if you navigate back, so there's DC2, DC4, DC5. Similarly, there is DC8 as shown here, and the URLs under 3 categories of the system: production, sales demo, preview are as specific. Now, we knew that, okay, the identifier for the data center from this example, but which is the actual data center URL we need to connect to? So, excuse me. Now for DC8, we have 3 URLs as shown above, as we were talking: production, sales demo, and preview. So which one corresponds to each of the below SuccessFactors application URLs? that we have been considering, that PM Sales Demo 8, Performance Manager 8. So the hint again lies in the host names. If the host name refers to sales demo or preview, then data center URL corresponds to the HTTPS to the API Sales Demo 8 or API 8 preview. So that means if in the host name of the sales SuccessFactors application URL, if it is corresponding to either sales demo or preview, then these we need to take these corresponding data center URLs. So if you see the first one, HTTPS PM sales demo 8. So for this, the data center URL is corresponding to sales demo system URL, which is HTTPS API sales demo 8.successfactors.com. But if our application URL would have been HTTPS performance manager 8.successfactors.com/login, then since it does not contain neither the sales demo nor the preview, so it corresponds to the production system URL, which is https://api8.successfactors.com. Now, all this exercise, why? If we are not able to get that information from our support team, then this is the logic we can apply and reach to the API URLs or the SFAPI URLs. Now, the success, so taking both of these into consideration, first point being the integer value, so that will let us know the data center identifier. Second, the presence of the patterns like sales demo or preview in the host name of the SuccessFactors application URL would also help us to further let us know that which is the actual data center URL out of 3 categories of under each data center. So with that, with the SuccessFactors instance URL being PM Sales Demo 8, the data center URL becomes API Sales Demo 8. And with the Performance Manager 8 being the SuccessFactors instance URL, the data center URL becomes API 8, as we just saw. Now, going further. So let's say we want to extract the user information from SuccessFactors. So there's an SFAPI object called as user. So we want to, let's say, extract the information of the user from SuccessFactors for all the fields and user ID. So an user ID need to be created in SuccessFactors. So in order to extract that information, so we have just covered the milestone 1. So we know what is the data center URL. Now the milestone 2 that we are trying to cover is how to create an SFAPI user in SuccessFactors with appropriate authorizations, so we can extract the SFAPI object user data from the SuccessFactors instance. Right. So now, so what we need to do is log into SuccessFactors instance, create a user, and have that password defined for that particular user. And to that user, we need to provide the permissions under administrator permission, and then we go down here, we see a manage user category, and under that manage user, we need to select employee export. In my testing that I did, I tried with various authorizations to be granted to this user. The first one I granted was under user permissions, and then we go to general user permissions, and then we made SFAPI login call authorization to this user. But what I noticed is even if I remove that permission from the user, still having only this access under manage user, under administrator permissions, main navigation, that still extracts data from the SOAP UI. Okay, so what needs to be done is like you create a role, a permission role, and in that permission role, we define the permissions. Let's say we assign only this permission, employee export under administrator permissions and manage user sub navigation link. We select the employee export. We save that role. We now come and create an permission group in SuccessFactors, and to that permission group, we assign this user under the category username equals to the name of the user that we just created sometime that we need to have, and then that like we need to provide that user the authorization, and that user will be acting as an SFAPI user with which we'll be extracting the data from the SuccessFactors instance. Now, once that user or the permission group is saved having this username, then we come back to the permission role and then assign this group in that role. So that role will grant these permissions that we have set up here to the group that will be mapping when we click on the link manage permission roles. So with that, a user will be given the authorization to do an employee export. So that is how a user would be created. So now let's come to the actual demonstration part. So I have already created that user in the application, SuccessFactors application. So that is the SFAPI user that I have created. I have assigned it to the password. Though I did not go into the UI to create that user and assign a password to it, I directly created from the SFAPI. We'll come to it later, but right now we are the user authorizations or the extract part we wanted to cover in this particular demonstration. So what we need to do is we create a new SOAP project and we name the project as SF extraction of user object, user SFAPI object. Now we need to put in the initial WSDL. So WSDL, as we knew, needs to be the URL of the data center and with the question mark WSDL as a suffix to that URL. So now we will go and take that URL. So for us, I will take HTTPS API sales demo 8.successfactors.com, and to that we need to assign like this .com/SFAPI v1 SOAP WSDL. Sorry, let me just copy and paste it here on this SOAP UI. Yeah. So it is, let's say this is the data center host name, then SFAPI v1 SOAP :WSDL, and let's say we create sample request for operations. I don't want to create a test suite as of now, so let me just make it okay. So now here, as you can see, there are a lot of methods shown up over here. With that, there's a request object associated. So now the first thing that we need to do to extract the data via the SFAPI is first we need to log in into the application and get a session ID. So for that we need to know the company ID and the username and the appropriate password. So I created the SFAPI user and has only given the employee export API employee export permission under the manage user sublink under the administrative permissions main link. So with this information, the company ID, username, and the password, we will go and make a call to SuccessFactors, allow us in. So let's see if we are returned with the session ID. Okay, so we have got the session ID. So we need to copy the session ID. This is a very important step. And let's say we go and so we are trying to extract the information. So right now I'll just try to show you how to query the data from SuccessFactors. So via the query type of an object request. So herein I'm doing a query on the user object. Okay, so before that I will put in the query for the user object. We need to do a step here wherein under the headers we'll add it here. We need to put in J session ID. Okay, here we put in as cookie, and here we put in as J session ID equals the value of the session ID that we have received. So now let me just take one query from the earlier queries that I have been trying. Okay. So let me take this query here. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to the query object request when we have put in the quickie head as an header and J session ID value, which we have received the session ID, and we are selecting all the selectable columns from the SFAPI user object and specifying as one of the filterable column username and the value for that username. So with this, let's see if it is properly formatted, and let's validate as well. Is less than equal to greater than. Okay, no, okay, so that is fine then. The XML is a proper XML, a valid and well formatted XML. So now with this, let's try to run the API. SFAPI. Okay, so we have got the ID, we have got the type, we have got the business phone number, all other categories being null, competency, custom, is Australia, okay, and this person, okay, it's CEO, fine, and okay. So these are all the details we can gather from the user object, and that is how we queried the SFAPI user object. Yeah, I hope you like the video. Yeah, thank you.